Albert Einstein often remarked, "Only two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity," and I'm not so sure about the former. Maybe this natural stupidity, or NS, is not limited to humans, but is a general feature of minds produced by Darwinian evolution. Humans have managed to engineer so-called artificial intelligence, or AI, but this is really just a buzzword for advanced statistical methods. Perhaps the NS of Darwinian life prevents true AI from being developed anywhere in the universe. Civilizations running on only NS would not be expected to become competent enough for interstellar travel, a possible solution to the Fermi Paradox. By the Copernican principle, that leads to a tentative conclusion. The Qualia Research Institute, QRI, runs the risk of being ignored by those who work on artificial intelligence. The fact that essentially nobody has heard about QRI indeed points in this direction. But what then is QRI? It is a tiny group of technology entrepreneurs who are solving how brains produce mental states of consciousness. 3 more letters may be added to NS. DAP. Natural Stupidity Discounts Alternative Possibilities.
Make the ultimate weapon!
Please define the ultimate weapon.
Go to bloody Wikipedia! Excellence is the only passing grade. Ultimate weapon? For warfare only. This is not a toy. Will cause catastrophic injury. Store life of potatoes. I love it!
If the world continues to be ruled by NSDAP, this would be a tragedy. But in the improbable event that there is a smart civilization on Earth in the future, the following discussion forum comments from 2021 might well be a hilarious comedy to the citizens of it.
QRI's research seems to be predicated on the idea that moral realism and hedonistic utilitarianism are true. I am very skeptical about both of these.
I think you're making a mistake by thinking of the brain like a musical instrument.
Do you think it should be compelling based on a trip? Is that real evidence? I don't see any reason to think that psychedelics give you more direct access to the nature of our brains.
Why don't you just ask people if they are suffering? What's the value of quantifying the degree of their suffering using harmonic coherence?
These comments did not make QRI people cry, because they are such skilled meditators that their equanimity is in the stratosphere. Just to test that equanimity a little further, we asked them if we could make fun of some serious topic they are working on. They suggested that we might do a presentation on the tyranny of the intentional object.
But, and here is the very, 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 very big but that you absolutely have to consider.
But we must skillfully navigate any political or religious controversy. Surely that's going to be a piece of cake, we thought. Intentional object is relevant for psychology. So we entered psychology, tyranny, political and religious controversy, and Qualia Research Institute in a YouTube search, and then fed the top video hits into a pre-alpha version of OpenAI's GPT-42. We could then use the trained model to autocomplete the following simulation. My religious faith is opposed to the intentional tyranny of gender-fluid political correctness. I find it very hard to answer the question, do you believe in God? By the logic of being almighty and all-wise, God must also be gender-fluid, and that becomes an issue with pronouns. The Communist Manifesto is so bad. Marx and Engels had no idea how the brain performs mental valence computation. Most people today are no smarter than Marx was, with notable exceptions like philosopher David Pearce and the Qualia Research Institute. But the Communist Manifesto can be useful for illustrating the tyranny of the intentional object. Imagine that you are a communist. Then think capitalism. That's your intentional object. If you do it right, you will now experience a negative state of affect, a negative emotional valence. Then switch to thinking about all the fine people who belong to the proletariat, which feels much better, a positive state of valence. For you to function as an agent in the world, you'll have to have a mind which feels as if your mental states are equal to the true reality of things. Darwinian evolution has made sure of that. NS, DAP. Heck, if my mental states were the same thing as the external world, I'd be God. And I know I'm not God. I'm not nearly gender fluid enough. A capitalist mind simulates communism as negative. A communist mind simulates capitalism as negative. They cannot both be right in an objective sense. So the tyranny of capitalism and the tyranny of communism are ultimately caused by the tyranny of the intentional object. NS-DAP rules, advanced societal problem solving remains impossible and the stars remain inaccessible.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9. Go Starlink.
From first principles, however, the valence itself may in fact have the same structure in both the communist mind and the capitalist mind. Only the intentional objects differ. The valence then acts as a structural modifier of mental objects and forms the key component of brain computation which unites information with directions for agency. The QRI confirms that if given enough funding, they will be able to reverse engineer it completely, and they promise to reveal some early results in a research paper to be published in 2022. If the artificial intelligence development and alignment communities were to pay attention, it might be possible to someday produce safe and truly friendly AI with intelligence and wisdom. When AI developers are asked about the role of consciousness for intelligence, they tend to reply by saying they ignore consciousness because they are engineers and not philosophers. A big enough digital artificial neural network will be able to crunch any amount of data you want. However, mere quantity of data will not automatically produce wisdom or value alignment. What it can accomplish instead is to enable ever more fine-tuned forms of economic exploitation. Disinformation is much more profitable than wisdom. Bull markets and bullshit are tightly linked. A smart civilization capable of reaching the stars would have to have first mastered consciousness and emotional valence computation. Humans, in contrast, seem to be stuck in either bullshit communism or bullshit capitalism. Does something along these lines always play out on inhabited planets? Or are some of the UAPs rare examples of space aliens who have learned the utility function of the universe and compiled everything to value from first principles? Their assessment of Earth could then well be that it is mostly harmless.